Jagradav. One of the most foundational and important principles of real yoga is sustainable energy. But it's not an environmental discussion. Let's talk about what it really means, what really matters. When you get to know yourself, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to find out that you like energy. That's what you like. You like feeling high. You like love. You like enthusiasm. You like excitement. You like the sense of being up, of being on, of feeling high. And there's nothing that you will ever do about that, meaning that is what you like. You may say you like Ferraris, but you don't. You like the fact that seeing a beautiful Ferrari makes you high. You might say that you love your wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend, but you don't. What you love is the fact that in their presence you feel uplifted. It lifts you up. You are addicted to high, and that is natural. Master Yogananda used to say, spirit loves spirit. What you are at the depth of your being is spirit. And you love the experience of that which brings you back to the core of your being. The core of your being is high. That's the foundation of yoga. Yoga is not about the asanas or meditation or mantras and mala beads and all these things. It's not. Yoga is about energy. All of those things are sort of the physical plane that unfolded, the artifacts, if you will, that are associated with that. But it is about energy. How much energy can you get flowing through you? How up can you be? How much love can you feel? Can you get so filled with joy and love and enthusiasm that you're going to feel like you're going to blow up? And could you stay there every minute of every day? That is what people want. You say love makes the world go round. No, it does not. Energy makes the world go round. Love is one form of energy. That is one form you can feel. Becoming famous and being a rock star and playing your guitar up on the stage with everybody screaming and yelling and grabbing at you, that's another form of energy. There are lots of forms of energy. Love is one of them. What makes the world go round is everybody chasing their high. It's different for everybody what stimulates it, but everybody's looking for the same thing. I want to feel joy. I want to feel power. I want to feel love. I want to feel excitement, and so on. Yoga is the science of that energy. There's a science of studying the stars. There's a science of studying your body. And there happens to be a body of knowledge that over the course of humankind has been collected concerning exactly what I'm talking about, which is, ever get high in there? You like it? Of course you do. Why not study that? That is the science of yoga. It is the body of knowledge that has been passed from person to person for thousands and thousands and thousands of years of what is that energy? Where does it come from? How do I get more of it? So what do you find if you study this? What you're going to find is first that it's there, that you do have this energy. It's not always there, but you have seen the potential for it to be there. And you have gotten very high at different times. You've seen that there's always higher than the high you've gotten. When you were young, you thought it was this. You get older, it was this. And it just keeps elevating. So basically, you look at this, and then the next thing you're going to see, because you're intelligent, is that that energy seems to be connected to what's going on outside of you. That certain events that happen outside of you elevate and open and give you a doorway to that energy. Other events that happen outside of you take the energy away from you. They drain you. They close you. You get depressed. You get down. What does depressed mean? Low energy. What does exalted and exhilarated mean? Up, high energy. So there are things that happen outside that raise your energy inside. And there are things that happen outside that close your energy inside. If you don't pay attention, you're going to devote your life to that relationship. You're going to say, I like energy. There are things that happen outside that raise my energy. There are things that happen outside that take away my energy. Therefore, I am going to devote my life to making the things happen that raise my energy and making the things not happen that lower my energy. And that is the life of 99.999% of every human being that walk this earth. That is what they're doing. They are completely dependent upon what is going on outside of them. If somebody likes them, they feel good. If somebody doesn't like them, they feel bad. It's very hard to get your energy up when you're in the presence of a bunch of people that hate your guts. Okay? It's hard to feel exhilarated and excited and love when you're facing stuff like that. So the outside world owns you. Sit with that. The outside world owns you. What control do you have what somebody thinks? None. But yet what they think about you decides your flow of energy. If they decide not to like you, you can't have energy in their presence. If they decide to really like you because they heard something from somebody that you have no control over, it's just going around like that. Now you are completely dependent upon what is going on outside of you. And because that is not comfortable to you, it is not under your control, you want to try to get it under your control. You want the energy under your control. So you go out, and in the normal course of your life, you attempt to manipulate people, places, and things around you so that they behave in a fashion that causes you to get high and get up, and to make sure they do not behave in a fashion that brings you down. I know those strong words, but would you agree that that pretty much describes? And then you're just trying to figure out how to do it. Your decision is to manipulate or not to manipulate. Of course you're going to manipulate. You want your energy, and you don't want things bringing you down. It's who to manipulate, how, and when. You need a strategy. You need to figure out. Anything you try to figure out, anything, these decisions you have trouble making. When you try to decide, what should my career be? Just say it right. What is it that I can try to make happen that will make me the highest? That's what you want your career to be. If you knew it was being a fireman, it seemed like it was going to be a fireman when you were little. Why? Why didn't you end up being a fireman? Because when I got older, it didn't turn me on anymore. You are going to try to do that which turns you on. Why? Because I like doing it. No, because you like being turned on. And that's when you get wise, when you get honest. You do not like or dislike things outside. You like and dislike things inside. Things outside make you experience different things inside. Therefore, you project your inner state onto the things outside. What does it mean when you say, oh, I really like so-and-so's artwork? What does that mean? It's just paint on a canvas. It means that when you stand in the presence of that art, you get high. Can a painting get you high? Yeah, you can get blown away. You can get blown away by a piece of music, can't you? You can get blown away by looking at art. You can get blown away by looking at a shape. We call it sculpture. It's a shape. But somehow that shape can turn you on, can't it? It can blow you away. Or, I can't stand that weird modern art. I don't even know how they call it art. Some people are that way. They don't like it. What does it mean you don't like it? It means that it closes off your energy. That in the presence of that, your energy goes down instead of up. You are describing your inner state when you use these words. You're not describing the painting that's sitting on the wall or the music that's coming in through your ears. Somebody standing next to you loves it. You hate it. So it's got nothing to do with the outside object. It has to do with how it stimulates or depresses the energy inside of you. I stress this because it's the most important honesty you will face in your life. You don't care about the outside. You care about the inside. And you are projecting the way the outside affects your inside onto the outside. And that's why you like things and don't like things. What if you've never experienced something? Somebody says to you, on our vacation this year, do you want to go to Bangkok or Hawaii? And so you sit there. You now have to decide which one you think will turn you on. That's all you're doing with all your thinking. That's all you're doing with all your browsing around the web. You're trying to feel what you're going to feel in Bangkok or in Hawaii. There is no exception to it. You are trying to raise the energy inside of you, and you are trying to use the outside world to do so. So You get to this point where you realize this, and then you take a deep breath, and you say, all right, seems reasonable. How well does that work? Manipulating the outside world to try and get high inside. And I'm going to make this long story short, because we're supposed to be talking about sustainable energy. It doesn't work very well. And someday you will find out that the very act of trying to decide what will turn you on turns you off. You feel insecure. You get nervous. It's hard to make those decisions, isn't it? And the next thing you know, you're anxious. Creates an anxiety, doesn't it? If I say to you, here's 2 cups. One of them has a bead inside, the other doesn't. Pick the cup. I like those games. Okay, you don't understand. I'm a mystical being. If you pick the wrong cup, you will literally be miserable for the rest of your life, every single day, forever. If you pick the right cup, you will feel ecstasy and joy and love, and everything will just melt and fold in front of you as if the angels were carrying you through life. Pick. You will go through hell picking that cup. I doubt you'll pick. The pressure of sitting there trying to decide what is going to make you happy is not a fun thing to do, is it? So the very act of deciding how to be happy makes you not happy. Now let's say you get over that hump, which, by the way, there is no way over the hump because you could have been wrong. Did you ever think, oh God, maybe I should have? Okay, then you can't make the decision. Then once you make it, you worry you made the wrong one, right or wrong. How can this work? How is that a way of getting high? So let's say you manage to make the decision. This is what I want to happen. And you get very specific. I want to go to this Ivy League college and get straight A's and get out of the thing there. And then I want to go to graduate school and get my master's. Then I want to get this job. And I don't want to get into a serious relationship until I have my career solid on this thing. And I've got X amount of money in the bank and this stuff taken care of. Then I want to get married. And then I want to have children. I want to have a boy and then a girl because the boy will help the girl. But I don't want to have it until I'm of this age so they get to be this, right? And you get all this thing laid out, right? And you're 7 years old when you're doing this. So you decided. Congratulations. Do you have any idea what your life is going to be like from that moment forward? Terrible. Why? It's not happening like I wanted it to. I didn't meet the person at the right time. I thought this was the right person and they ran off with somebody else. But they were the right person. They weren't. Yeah, they were. No. Reality spoke. You don't care about reality. You only care about the fact that you already decided what's going to make you happy. And it's not happening. Does that make you happy when it doesn't happen? Tell me straight. When you decide how things are supposed to be and they're not, how you doing? So far we're doing really well at this happiness thing, at this high joy thing. We've decided I want to be happy, and I have to decide what outside made me that way. That made you miserable, trying to decide. It was very anxious. It was very difficult. But I finally made the decision. I worry about it a lot, but I pushed that aside. So now you've made the decision through anxiety and you suppressed your fear that you made the wrong one. So now you go forward and try to make it happen. There's no way you're making it happen. There's no way. You don't control the world. You don't control people. You don't control everything. It's just amazing what things can go wrong. What do you mean they go wrong? What you mean is they didn't happen the way I thought they should to make me happy. That's what wrong means. Otherwise, things just happen. A yogi reached the point where they realized there was no wrong or right. There's only that which matched what you wanted and that which didn't match what you wanted. The world unfolds. The fact that you met this person and they ran off with somebody else, that's not wrong. It just means that wasn't what you thought it was supposed to be. It wasn't what you wanted to happen. That's what wrong is. Every one of us picks something else as wrong. I decided what I wanted to happen. It didn't happen. That's wrong. I decided what I wanted to happen. It did happen. God's grace. And so you've done this, and now your mind is full of all this. Why do you think what you make up in your mind is going to happen? Why? Who gave you that idea? Why don't you just hold your hand up in the air and say, I want a ring, and expect it to be there? Why don't you just go to your house and say, bigger, and expect it to grow? It's nice to believe. I did that once. And there were stages in my path where I really, really got into this head that anything was possible, anything. One summer, back in the early 70s, I drove up to Canada by myself, and I went to Montreal, and I was meditating a lot during that time. And I really didn't speak any language, spoke a little bit of Spanish because I had taken it in school, but I never was introduced to French in any way, shape, or form, not a single thing. And I decided that something inside of me was supposed to know how to speak French. But I really believe that. It's just I believe that the self was omniscient, and that if you opened enough to that energy, it could do anything. And I bought a little book, one of those easy learning things, and for a couple of days read that while I was driving up there, and then I was ready. I meditated outside this restaurant and walked in. There was a restaurant with an eating place at a bar, because that's where I sat down, and these people were speaking French. And I went in and I sat down and I tried to understand. I just took deep breaths and opened up and said, "You can, I think you can." Oh, reality strikes. Didn't understand a single word they were saying. So, you wake up. Why do you think what you make up in your mind is supposed to happen? Why? And then you get upset when it doesn't. You meet somebody and you know it's the person you always dreamed of. Oh my God, is that person in trouble? You've already decided everything that person's like. What right do you have to play these games in your mind and then think they're real? So let's put that whole thing in the category of unsustainable energy. It does work sometimes. It does. Hey, it's the law of numbers. Sometimes something's going to unfold and surprise you. It worked. I am not going to deny that. It's good. It's beautiful. I'm in love. It's over. I know this is the right person. You just met her. I don't care. I know. That's what it's like when you're 14 or 15, isn't it? Wow. It opens up. When you get what you want, it opens up. When it matches your expectations. When you believe this would make me happy and you get the job or yes to the marriage or no, you don't have cancer. We read the wrong report. When things happen that you want, I am not going to deny that it's beautiful. I'm not going to deny that when you love somebody and you're too shy to say anything and finally you get up the gumption and you just tell them that you're really attracted to them and they turn to you and said, "Oh my God, I've loved you from the day I saw you." Oh my God, that's nice stuff. That heart just goes woo and it melts and all this beautiful energy comes flying up inside of you. I like that stuff? Yeah, that's why you're trapped. How often does it happen? I once challenged you to figure out how many seconds you've been alive. Not years, that's child's play. I want to know how many seconds you've been alive. And then I want to look at you and have you look at me and tell me, of those seconds, how many were spent in that state that I just described? How many seconds, what percentage of the seconds that you've been alive did you experience that beautiful rush of surprising energy that really turned you on? Now you got it? Okay? And so it's not sustainable energy. It doesn't last, does it? It's not like she said she loved me. That's the end of it. You say to her, it's the only thing I'll ever need for the rest of my life. That's the biggest lie you'll ever tell. Within 2 minutes, you want something else. She has to be exactly the way you want her to be the moment she does something you don't like. How could you have done that to me? It is not only non-sustainable energy, it is just like a drug. It's a drug and you're addicted. And you kill yourself trying to get it. You give up everything trying to get that. And what ends up happening is you end up being a neurotic mess. Why? Because it doesn't work. You can't get sustainable energy that way. Well, what's the alternative? Is there an alternative? Is there such a thing as sustainable energy? Yes. Yes, there is such a thing as sustainable energy. There is such a thing as tapping into energy within you that never stops flowing, ever. That just keeps feeding you and pouring down inside of you. And anytime you want to take a shower, you just stop what you're doing and it bathes you and you're sustained and lifted until you get so high that nothing will ever take you down, ever, for all of eternity, and you know it. So there is sustainable energy. And again, to come back to yoga, that is the science of yoga. Somebody once found that. What? That never-ending flow. And all of yoga is just the heritage of passing that down, of how to tune in to that energy. There is a flow of energy inside of you. What did Christ say? Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that leaveth the mouth of the Father. Talking about the same exact thing I'm talking about. There is inside of you a flow of energy that doesn't stop. The only reason you don't feel it is because you turn away from it. You don't pay attention to it. If there was something very beautiful outside of you, you never looked at it, you wouldn't feel beauty. If there's something very beautiful inside of you and you never look at it, you will not feel the beauty. It's that simple. And so now we come down to how to achieve sustainable energy. First, you understand for the final time for the rest of your life that it ain't outside. That doesn't mean there's not energy outside. It doesn't mean that there's not a shot every once in a while. It means it's non-sustainable. It means it will not take you where you want to go. Money doesn't do it. People that have money are more miserable than people who don't. Well, marriage surely does it. Then why do 50% of all marriages end in divorce? Everything gives you hope. It's like a promise. It's like a little bit better than it was without it. Non-sustainable and just a mirage in the desert. That's really what it is. All of it. So, how does one do this? First, you reach the point of understanding, never again for the rest of my life will I believe that it's outside, because I know it's not. Doesn't mean I'm going to renounce. Doesn't mean I won't be thankful for the shot that comes. Don't get into that. It's just another trip. Thank you, I meet you, you turn me on. Thank you. Now what I want to figure out is, what does it mean to get turned on? Where did that rush come from? And where did it go when something turns you off? Master used to call meditation entering the laboratory of soul research. This is why. You are starting to study this stuff. So first you realize it's not going to work to try to manipulate and control everything outside of me to make it the way I want it to be so I get a high. That's old. Second, which is a greater realization, you're going to realize that when I do get turned on by the outside, I actually experience it inside. When I stand in front of that painting, the energy that moves inside of me that gets peaceful and beautiful, and I just feel that beauty, I experience it inside of me. It's a shift that happens in my heart. Something happens to my energy flow inside, and it's just beautiful. But it's inside. It's not outside. So even the outer experience stimulated an inner experience. And so you start to study that flow of the energy. And once you start to study that flow of the energy, you are a yogi. That is yoga. Just like when you study the behavior of outside forces, you're a physicist. I don't care if you have a degree, you're studying physics. When you study that energy flow inside of you, you are studying yoga. Now what will you see? Because you'll see it very quickly. What you will see is that it has something to do with the openness and closedness of your being. That when the energy is flowing, you first feel an openness of your heart. And when the energy stops flowing, you feel a tightening, closing of your being. And that's exactly what's going on. What you experience is what's happening. There is an opening of energy centers, and then the energy can come in. There's a closing of energy centers, then the energy can't come in. It's just like opening a window and seeing the light, closing the window, you don't see the light. How many times you have to do it before you realize that seeing the light has something to do with opening the blinds? You're going to see that opening your heart, opening your centers, opening your being permits energy to pour inside of you. Closing, protecting, contracting your being closes the energy and it doesn't flow inside. If you love somebody in their presence, you feel open. When they say the slightest thing that bothers you, you'll feel your heart go pop, and then you will not feel love. You will not feel energy. And so that's the highest thing you realize is this has to do with my ability and willingness to be open versus my inability, and therefore I close. And you will reach a point where you realize it is all about opening and closing. All of yoga is about opening and closing. All of spirituality is about opening and closing. If you are closed, you will never know spirituality or the fruits of yoga. If you are open, for whatever reason, and in whatever way, if I can take a rock and say that there's something special about that rock, and it opens me to be in the presence of that rock, then all of a sudden that rock becomes holy. Whatever opens you. And it becomes a spiritual experience. It becomes a spiritual thing. Why? Because openness is spiritual. And you just realize that that is what spirituality is. It is the ability to open and remain open. And if you want sustainable energy, then you must be able to stay open and never close. The moment you reach the point that you are capable of staying open and never closing, you will know what I mean by sustainable energy. It will pour inside of you and it will never stop. You will feel love in the presence of people who hate you if you can stay open. Can you stay open in the presence of situations that are very uncomfortable? If the answer is no, well, then you're not going to feel the energy. If the answer is yes, you will never, ever, ever lose that energy. And that will become your path at some point. What? Staying open in the presence of uncomfortable situations. Anybody can be open in the presence of comfortable situations. That's not hard at all. I told you, I'm not telling you to renounce. I'm not interested in that side. I'm interested in the fact that you still close. Because as long as you close, you are cutting off the energy. And when you cut off the energy, you will start to look like for substitutes for that energy. And that's when you start going outside and drinking and smoking and buying something or getting a new hairdo or new clothes. You need something that compensates for the fact that you are not getting the energy inside. And so you try to do things outside that will stimulate the energy. Guilty or not. Everything, eating. You're sitting there watching TV or studying or doing something. You're doing fine. And then you just don't feel right inside. You're not hungry, but it just gets a little weird in there. And then you go to eat. What's it got to do with eating? Well, it's enjoyable to eat. Sometimes when you eat it, it tastes good. Therefore, eating affects the flow of your energy. Therefore, when I don't feel the flow of the energy, I want to eat. Or call somebody. Or go somewhere. Or do something. You always try to fix it. Try to fix the fact that the energy is not flowing properly. You're going to find that when the energy is flowing properly, you don't need any of that. You are what I call self-effulgent. It's a beautiful word. You are self-sustaining. You are whole and complete within yourself. Doesn't mean you can't interact with people. It means when you interact with people, they're the luckiest person that ever lived. Because you don't need anything from them. People that are whole and complete within themselves and then come into the presence of somebody else to share that. To say, my cup runneth over. You are welcome to stand in the flood. You are also welcome not to. I don't need you to stand there. This energy is flowing from beyond me and feeding me. Of course I love sharing it. It's free for everybody. Not to mention someone who stands close to me, shares my house with me. It's always there. Stand in it. Enjoy it. But should you leave or should something happen, it's not going to affect that energy. That's where I want you. How would you like to be there? That you're complete, you're whole, because that energy will not stop. There is a flow of energy inside of you that is fed from beyond your personal being. It's just like the sun. I'm going to give you a news flash. The sun never sets. It's the truth. For 5 billion years, it has sat out there floating in the sky, shining exactly the same. Doesn't have a day and night, doesn't set, doesn't rise, no winter, no spring, no summer. There is energy inside of you that is just like that sun. It does not stop flowing, ever. And there's nothing you have to do about it. It is the sun. It is just shining. It is love. It is pure. It is beauty. It is God. All right? It's divine. You turn away from that. The same as the earth turns away from the sun, and this makes you think there's night. But there's not. You're doing it. You see, the analogy is perfect, isn't it? The poor sun's innocent. It's just sitting out there. Who wants it? Come and get it. All the time, just pouring. But you turn away from it. And that's what's going on inside. That flow of energy is always there. Then you start realizing the next thing, which is amazing. When you go deeper, you're going to see that even when you get the energy outside, that rush, that love, that high, that it's really coming from that place inside. That the only reason you're feeling it then is because you opened. Therefore, because you opened, you felt it. When you closed, you didn't. It's all the same energy. Love, pride, music, art, people loving you, success, accolades, any of that stuff is all the same energy. There's only one energy inside. You just open in different places. So you just start watching this and realizing there is sustainable energy. It is inside of me. I want it. Now you're on a spiritual path. Why we call it a spiritual path? Because that energy is what the Bible calls spirit. That's what this energy that I'm talking about is. That's the Holy Spirit. That's the flow of Shakti, of Chi, of love, of beauty. And it pours inside of you. When it flows, you just feel completely whole and complete. Nothing could feed you better than being fed direct. It's a transcendental, uplifting experience. You stand in the light. And it will teach you everything. Why? Because by following that, by trying to stay in tune with that energy, that's your entire spiritual path. Because what's going to happen when you try to do that is you're going to notice it's not easy. You're going to notice that you're really feeling that energy. I'm meditating, and I just feel it, it's flowing, and a dog barks. Damn dog. Oh. Uh-oh. I'm feeling great love to be in your presence. I feel so overwhelmed with that love. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. We're perfect. We're soulmates. I want to look at your face. And I open my eyes, and you're doing your iPhone thing. How you feel now? Huh? How you doing? The love flowing? Feel real open? No, you closed right down, didn't you? Why? You got what you were looking for. You're feeling love. What do you care what they're doing? So you give up the sustainable to get involved in the non-sustainable. What this idiot's doing when we're supposed to be loving each other. That's non-sustainable, isn't it? Trying to control somebody else's behavior. How you done at that so far? And so you start realizing that is what it's going to teach me. How to stay in its presence. And it is my choice, whether I choose to close. It's as simple as that. If I want to keep feeling that love, even though you're iPadding, even though you're doing that, and your mind wandered a little bit and you got involved in something when it was love time, isn't that terrible? No. Maybe you were writing a love note on your iPhone. How do I know what you were doing? So it's none of my business. The only thing that is my business from this moment forward is that flow of energy inside of me. It is all I care about. It is all I want. It is the source of my entire life and my entire existence. It's why everybody else is running around. It's why they want money. It's why they want love. It's why they want every single thing they're doing, and I found out how to get it. And mine is sustainable, and heck if I'm giving it up for anything that you or anybody else does. That's a yogi. This becomes your life. It becomes everything. That's when you're a spiritual being. You caught on. The energy I am seeking is inside of me. Even when something happens outside that makes me feel it, what I'm feeling is inside of me. And all of a sudden it gets to the point, this is where I want you to be. You ever heard of a win-win situation? True spirituality is a win-win situation. Here it goes. Something happens outside that opens me up. What do I feel? Woo, boy, that's nice. It reminds me of how beautiful it could have been all the time if I hadn't closed last time. Thank you for opening me back up. Thank you for reminding me of how much beauty and love and Shakti there is inside of me, because this is nice stuff. So it's good and wonderful. You win if something happens that opens you up. What happens if something starts to close you? Well, I don't want to close. Listen carefully. It's not that I don't want there to be things outside of me that close me. I don't want to close. Spirituality says, not that I don't want there to be things outside that can close me. There will always be things outside that can close me. Now you get to the Eastern teachings. There's yin and there's yang. And you ain't making it otherwise. There's yin and there's yang. There's expansion and contraction. All things are going to be. Things are going to be different out there than you want them to be. So it's not that I don't want there to be things outside that can tend to close me. Nope. I don't want to close. Not I don't want to close. I will not close. That's spiritual. That's a spiritual being. I will not close. And if I tend to close, I will use that opportunity to learn not to close. So if something happens that opens me, and I feel great love and joy and openness, it's a win for me. if something happens that tends to close me, and I have this opportunity of trying to see what's going on inside of me, what's the dynamics of closing, and learn how not to, learn to remain open in the face of that which tends to close me, then that's a win. So now I win either way. All of it's spiritual, all of it is my path to God, all of it is raising me, but you did that, didn't you? That's a very high state I just talked about. Nothing is doing anything except taking you to God, taking you to where you want to go. So we know how to use the things that open you. Enjoy them. If something teaches you how beautiful it can be inside, learn. But understand it's not sustainable. It is the attempt to try to make it happen again, and the attempt to try to think it's supposed to be sustainable, why your highs destroy you. That's why they destroy you. They make you an erotic mess. If a person feels love and it opens them, let's say you're married, and then you see somebody, and for some reason you just feel all this attraction and love. Don't go there, but honor the beauty that you're feeling. Let it remind you how beautiful it can get inside. Bring it home. Bring it home. Be a more loving person when you get home because you remembered what it was like to love that much. That's what happens to a yogi. That's what happens to a spiritual being. They're not fighting the energies. They are riding the wave to God. And every single energy that unfolds inside is a pathway, is something that raises you. So when things happen outside that raise you, don't get attached to the outside. The outside was just a stimulus that opened you. Honor that. Say thank you inside. Don't talk outside. Just keep yourself inside. You thank it, and you learn to look at this energy and say, look how beautiful it is when I'm open. And then when things start to happen that close you, you look at it and it starts to close you, and now I'm challenging you. How can you stay open when you tend to close? If somebody says something to you that you didn't expect, nervousness starts to come inside and gets all anxious in there, and the mind starts going, how could he talk to me like that? Right? And start giving you all the things you're going to do back to make sure they never do it again, and they realize how much they hurt you. Woo! Woo! Tornado in there, can it? Can it happen in a billionth of a second? Yes or no? It does that, doesn't it? How can you learn to stay open when that happens? That's your growth. That's fun. That's like the sport. You're a high school team, you're going to play the NBA. You go into the major leagues. It's fun. I want you to see it as fun. Don't be afraid of it. Because I'm guaranteeing you there is a way. There is a way to stay completely open and feel that flow of inner energy when that happens to you. But first you have to understand, it is not about making sure that the person doesn't say something that makes that happen. Don't do that. You'll never do that. That's the wrong direction. And it is not about that if they do say it, that doesn't start to happen inside of you. It is not about manipulating and controlling them so they don't say it. And it is not about manipulating and controlling your ego, your personal self, so that it doesn't freak when they say it. No, you're not going to win at that one either. I'm going very deep with you. What is it about? It is about you remaining in that flow of light when both of those two other things happened. When they said it and your personal self freaked, you were strong enough, you were centered enough, you were committed enough to not leave that flow of energy that was feeding you, even though those things happened. Now, I said it very straight this time. Do you understand that that's possible? Do you understand that you are just watching that part of your being? It's not who you are. You're watching your personal self freak. So it freaked. Doesn't mean you freaked. It means you're watching something that freaked. You are the consciousness. You are the Atman, the self. You have the right, should you choose to relax when it freaks. You lean away from where it's freaking, and you keep relaxing over and over again. That's your only way out. You are the way out. You are not going to get out by transforming this world, and you are not going to get out by trying to make your lower self into your higher self. It is what it is. Lower self has its nature, doesn't it? It has its nature, and that's its nature. So everything has its nature. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with you, you, you who's listening to me, the consciousness, soul, how you doing? Because the truth of the matter is, anytime you want, you can do just fine, no matter what's going on. You just relax behind, you relax through these energies that are reacting inside of you. When you can relax, you will find that the inner energy keeps flowing. It's hard at first, but wait till you see it the first time. Something happens that it would have made hell in your life, and you just relax through it. And this rush, actually more energy poured inside of you. It's called the transmutation of energy. Just poured down inside of you, and you got higher, and it's like, whoa, bring me some more bad stuff. This is nice. That's what happens. You transmute every energy that's entering into you by staying seated within the self. So that's why you meditate. You meditate to learn to remain centered enough so that when these things happen outside, you're there. Really, it's going to happen in your everyday life. It's not enough to meditate for 3 hours and have a high and then come out and have all these problems, complaining about how the world's so screwed up. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about 24/7 from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed and while you're sleeping, being fed by a completely sustainable energy that will never leave you, and you know it will never leave you until you are so sure of that you're a liberated being. What are you liberated from? Yourself. You're liberated from ever closing. And then once you're liberated from closing inside, you don't have to worry about the world, do you? Because the worst the world can do is close you. The worst the world can do is close you. It can't do anything else. All you care about is the energy. If the energy kept flowing, who cares? It's just something to play with. By all means, go out there and raise it. Nobody's saying you don't try to help and do what you can to raise the energies. But you do not do that because you're trying to affect your energies. That's called taking, not giving. You seek the inner energy. That's yoga. You seek to stand in that light, let it feed you, and you do that by relaxing through yourself. If you are able to relax in the presence of the tendency to close, and I don't care if it closes. You'll come to me and say, but it's still closed. I know it's still closed. I don't care. What I care about is your consciousness and the intention of the center of your will. That's where it's going to come from. As you relax in the face of the tendency to close, it's like lifting weights. Over time, you'll be fine. The more you are willing to relax in the face of the difficulties, the more you will see your center get stronger and stronger. And now things will happen that lift you, and they'll last longer. Because the little things that used to close you, you learn to let go of. So now you stay high longer. And then when the big things happen that tend to close you, you don't get as sucked into them because you're able to relax through them. And through all of it, you know, this is learning. Earth is a place where souls are sent to evolve. Evolve into what? Something very, very beautiful. In other words, you evolve into who you are. What does yoga mean in Sanskrit? Union. My father and I are one, he said to me. Isn't that beautiful? It's so beautiful when you see this is the truth in the Bible, this is the truth in the Gita, this is the truth in the Quran, this is the truth in the Torah, this is the truth in all of them. Because there is this energy flow inside. And when you stand in it, it is the most beautiful, uplifting thing that could ever feed you. It feeds your soul, it feeds your being. And that is the start of spirituality, not the end. Should you stand in that flow enough, what is going to happen to you is you're going to get intoxicated by it and lose interest in other things. Doesn't mean you won't do your daily work, but you will. You hear me? You'll lose interest. And you're going to start to get interested in something totally different, which is, God, this is nice. Where does this come from? We didn't even discuss that, did we? Nor are we going to. But that's what will happen to you. Once that energy is no longer just a momentary experience and it's just constantly flowing in there, it will dawn on you that it's there. It's real. It's not something you believe in. This thing is real. Where in the world does that come from? They used to say, what is the source of the Ganges? I want to know the mouth of the Ganges. All the deep mystical spirituality of yoga. That's the true Ganges, is that flow that flows down inside. Where does that come from? What is the source of that? It flows from God. It does. It flows from the source. And yogis that have followed that energy back up, Meher Baba said, when I touched the source, it was like a drop of water from an eyedropper fell into the ocean. I lost myself. How could I ever find myself again? How will you find that drop of water again once it touches the ocean? And so he merged, and that is what yoga is. It's that final step where you followed it all the way back and let go of yourself to merge in the source of all that ecstasy. What's my favorite name for God in the Hindu scriptures? Satchitananda. Satchitananda. Eternal conscious ecstasy. That's what was before all else was. A field of eternal conscious ecstasy that knew itself as bliss. So the topic of this talk was sustainable energy, but not from an environmental sense. Jai Gurudev.